telling the truth of who is who and who is not who they've been claiming to be. However, understanding and knowing that the reason that the hybrid Europeans have been trained to call themselves Americans because they have been making claims on the land and the resources under the doctrine of discovery, which many of you will find many of the court cases by which they've been stealing people's lands. They have won under the rule of the doctrine of discovery, not because they had a legitimate claim. They've been ruled to be claimants valid under the doctrine of discovery. And then when our people are discussing these things, they're trained to start talking racism and prejudice, which means they're already off the mark. Again, why this discussion of Aboriginal titles. And keep in mind, Aboriginal title is first claim. First people, first claim. And right of claim. And if this is again in law, for those of you who already know it, and you see some people around the kingdom that have been talking about right of claim, and they'll make claims on the land or titles, etc., is based on their knowledge of what we're talking about right now. However, if a hybrid has no right of claim. This is why they use mortgages and deeds to claim the land. But knowing that most people don't know that these are false documents, totally false, totally fraudulent documents, and they do not supersede Aboriginal title. This must be known to you. So write this down so you can get this very clear. So as we go on into these things, maybe even in the future, in more refined argument, know this in law and in international law. Aboriginal title is a superior claim to all deeds and other instruments that are used in bodies politics on claims of land and estates. Keep that in mind. So understand, mortgages and deeds are actually fraudulent and are created to create debt under feudal law. Aboriginal title dismisses all that BS because it's BS. It was always BS because whenever you're talking mortgages and deeds, remember, you're immediately talking feudal law operations of hybrid foreign European colonists and their descendants. You're not talking Aboriginal anything. You're talking occupation, operations under colonial executions of doctrine of discovery and unum sanctum. Those operations by right of law do not apply to Aboriginal people. However, under false pretenses, many of you know as 14th Amendment operations, that's one of the tricks that have been used to impose the feudal law operations, avoided inheritance upon Aboriginal people. And this is why you've seen so-called assigned Black leaders promoting 14th Amendment Negro platforms, which declares the people as corpse or dead under corporation and therefore not heritable in law. And of course, that's been used traditionally, also known as 14th Amendment, which rightfully and historically does not apply to our people whatsoever. But because they've attached to it and claimed to be a part of it in order to try to have some substance of life and some kind of substance of economics, not knowing that they're abandoning their estates, and that platform of the 14th Amendment for the Constitution for the United States, etc., was actually used to steal their land and their estates under the rule of escheating. Again, why it's important for us to look at Aboriginal titles as your rightful and most effective remedy, knowing that there's going to be opposition because that's the ball of wax, because you start exercising that and you start getting these people across the land to start exercising their right of claim, Aboriginal title, ball game over. However, if they can keep the people distracted, beating around the bush, going into the wrong courts, etc., to municipal courts, etc., which were actually put in place to steal their estates. It's almost like a contradiction. And so are people not aware of their responsibility to themselves and to their progeny to enforce the treaties, etc., and then make their aboriginal claims, i.e., because the Constitution for the United States is put in place to keep the foreign Europeans who've been doing business on our land, keep them in check and keep them reminded of their obligations to all treaties in force and to the principles undergirding or supporting that Constitution, all of which comes from honesty or Aboriginal law, etc., and logically the treaties. So again, as a countermeasure to the negative activities that are taking place now, and which have been going on anyway, to tear our families apart, take in consideration and do all your research and be diligent in your research on Aboriginal titles, because it is a rightful and superior claim to all mortgages and deeds. Keep that in mind. So write that down. Aboriginal titles are superior claims and superior right of claims to all and any mortgage or deed. Fact. And put that in quotes. Ingrain that in your mind. Teach it to your family members. Teach it to your children. And expect opposition, because that's the ball of wax. Any other questions, Doctor?
Let me see. What is the language, Lakar Infinite says, what is the language we should be speaking in reference to right terminology? Does any Moor have a book on the way a Moor should speak?
Yeah, keep in mind. Let's get this clear from the beginning. Most of the Moors here in North America speak one language, which is mixed international trade language, which you know is English. Understand that English is a Moorish language. It's not the hybrids. It belongs to you. It's actually Creole. What you call English is really Creole. And it was evolved from Phoenicians, etc., which they also call the Gullah, etc., because we were the river people, and we've been trading for millennia, for centuries. And so English is a conglomeration of Moorish Latin and many of your other African linguistic forms, French, German, etc., which are actually African languages. And most people think that those Pictic language, because they're Pictic and Moray and Dob, etc. And the first thing comes into the people's minds are the hybrid Europeans, because of their having control of these areas, or of the peninsula, Iberian Peninsula. So if you, and Phoenicia. So if we say to most of these Asiatic Africans now, tell us about the history and tell us about the geographics of Iberia and Phoenicia. And most of them would start looking at a map in Southern or South Asia, which we call Africa now, and they'd be looking, trying to find Phoenicia, etc., and not knowing that Phoenicia is Europe. That's fact. Phoenicia is Europe. Iberia is the European peninsula, which you call Portugal, España, Española, Italia, which you already know as in the area that you call Spain, which is Al-Andalus. That's North Africa, northern part of South Africa. It's the truth.
I think what the questioner is asking is more to do with not so much dialectic, but what's the right type of how. This is
where I think the question follows. This is where the question follows is more harmonic with what are the legal terms and law terms that have been used to steal our state And should we be familiar with them? Yes, you should.
I mean, just the thing of as cheating.
As
right
cheating.
there, you hear cheat in there. And I'm thinking, how obvious is... I'm glad you like it.
Keep in mind.
How obvious is something that says there is cheating your property?
Exactly. Like, for instance, like let's look at this. Like, say, for instance, like, say we can go around the corner here in Wilmington, in area, in the Nonocoke area of the Nonocoke Moors. This area is Nonocoke. This is us. Nonocoke is the Moors of this area. And they'll falsely call us in history like Delaware Indians and stuff. No, Nonocoke. All right, so the Nonocoke of this area, we can go in this area right now that's under hybrid European operations of the Wilmington Corporation, which is a corporation, not the land. People need to understand this. These are political zones or jurisdictions that are created under corporate activity and placed on the land. These are zones for taxing. And I know that our people really need to be aware that, like, say, for instance, this building here, right? And there's a number that's on the face of this building. And they will deceive you into saying that this number is your house. No, it's not. That number is a designation in a logbook for tax collection. That's the only purpose it serves. It has no other purpose whatsoever. You attach yourself to it, then they call you taxpayer. Now that's feudal law. You don't rebuke that, right? Then they assume, then they put what you call force, because on the feudal law, they force you. There is no such thing as voluntary nothing. They rob you, extort you, and if you don't take it, they'll take the house, say that the house is theirs, and they're lying. But that's called as cheating. Now, they've been doing that since 1913. See, but people have lost cognizance because, how many generations have they dissolved since 1913, whereas there's no reference point. And so many of our people, and my family included, right, are struggling for a so-called job somewhere to live or to try to support their families so that their families can eat and be out of the weather, and can give you stories where grandmother had untold acres of land, whether Virginia, Jersey area, what we call, Shakamoxon or Shakyabi area, which they'll call Jersey, right? New Amsterdam, which they'll call New York. And we all have that history. How many of our people never dawned on them that the land was stolen from your families through the creation of the mortgages and deeds that were placed on them since 1913? Because most of us can trace the loss of family land within the last couple generations. And that's a fact. But it never dawns on them of how it was done to them, how it never dawns on them that they were cheated. They'll say, oh, my grandmom had land and we had a farm and all this stuff, and the children lost it for taxes, not knowing that tax never applied to them. And that that inherited land was not to be taxed. But they misclassified the land, and then misclassified themselves, claimed to be Americans, and then taxed the land, knowing that the people, after a couple of generations, couldn't keep up with it. They just used what they call inflation to do it. And so they need a couple of generations. They already know that the tax would come a dead pledge, what known as a mortgage, an implied debt, all built on a fraud, and then the people can't pay the debt, and then they take the land. This is what they've been doing. This is exactly what they've been doing. That's what a cheat is. You see? And escheat is essentially an estate. It's an obstruction of the natural process of inheritance. Keep this in mind. Escheat, this is what me and Dr. Naila was just making reference to. Escheat is an obstruction of the natural course of inheritance. And this is also how they've been gentrifying our communities over the years. And because of the younger generations, thereafter, lost reference, they didn't know that these things were being done. Because in their mind, they've been trained that they owe taxes to the foreign alien Europeans who were being claimed to be Americans, not knowing that they were actually being attacked. But this is a result of lack of information. And of course, this is why Gates Foundation set up the General Education Board to dumb these people down. And then generationally steal their estates. And now our people are pretty much subjugated. So now they can control the jobs and so make sure that the men can't properly take care of their families. Then they use that and then pit the women against the men, which completes the cycle of the genocide. And this is why you see much of what you call these broken relationships that you're experiencing now in society. And the people are thinking they're mad at each other. Oh, he cheated. Oh, she cheated. Oh, no, they're trying to survive. And they're being groomed to that. And even, whether they use the music platform to influence the youth, the dress codes to influence them, etc. All of this is part of the unum sanctum doctrine of discovery, escheat operations. And that's the truth. And you can't make people know. What you can do is share with them information, trusting that they are interested enough or loving enough, because we've been trained also not to love each other.
Somebody was asking about whether or not the person was asking about language, and then they clarified and wanted to know if anyone had done a book. And I pulled out here.
Also, do you have more information here?
Yes.
Give more information. Now,
that book is going to help them.
I'm going to share with you all 2 books that all persons who would like to have a foundation in grammatication, or a foundation in etymology, a foundation of the proper jurisprudence phrases that are applied to us, and also some of which have been used to escheat you. Here's one: Etymology and Vocabulary by Abdullah Iltalib Mosi Bey.
Yeah. A little bit more further over. A little bit. Yeah, there you go. Right there. There you go.
That's the front. And this is the back. And as you can see, take a screenshot, because you can order it right down here. And if you want to have a really grounded knowledge of the true politics of the West and the world, and your history and jurisprudence, and of treaties and constitutional principles, Moors and Masonry, by Abdullah Iltalib Mosi Bey. And of course, those of you who want to acquire this book, you can get it on more civil letter. And he has many other books that will show you the culture and the history and some jurisprudence established in fact. Then you have the Masonic Compass and the Square, Measurement and Timekeeping. By Abdullah Iltalib Mosi Bey. So the curriculum is there for you. Here's Moorish mystery.
Mysticism.
Mysticism.
That's Jamal.
Africa. Moorish dominions. And we have a lot of other literature. And of course, if you
those are by Jamal.
Yeah. And these are by, these other last two are by Jamal.
Brother Jamal.
Now, point that I'm making to you, you have a lot of professors and scholars among your own. However, they have to publish in what you call in our own venues, because mainstream controlled media under the Gates Foundation and the Rockefeller Foundation is not going to give you this kind of information. No, they're not. Don't expect it. However, these are Aboriginal books by Aboriginal people with the true knowledge and the view of the world from the eyes of an Aboriginal, distinguished from an occupier or descendant of occupiers who are here to asking you to
hold up the vocabulary of the first book.
Yes, to extort or, pardon me, escheat your land. And everybody should have this for their children. But that includes adults. And adults will quickly find out how much they've been miseducated. It's shamefully. So when we share information with you, we have professors among our body's politics who are more than highly qualified, to produce curriculum for you. And this is great for all homeschoolers. And of course, it's going to lead you to other writings by Professor Abdullah. It is, to be blunt, priceless. To be bluntly truthful with you. And it is